This election fraud goes all the way to the top. It goes to the President of the United States. We are a banana republic.
Hey friends, thanks so much for tuning in. I'm very gratified to have on the line Bill Holter from JS Mineset, jsmineset.com. We're going to document the collapse, but first we're going to talk about these Wikileaks releases. 25,000 emails exposing Clinton, DNC, and Democratic corruption have been released as of Friday. They also expose Soros's contact information and his relationship with the witch known as Hillary Clinton. And the mainstream media is obviously colluding to cover it all up, blaming Russia as being the bad guy and the boogeyman behind every corner and under every bed. Never, ever exposing Hillary Clinton for her blatant corruption and treason.
Right, and well, that's the problem. Yes, these emails were hacked. WikiLeaks has dumped, 25,000 emails now of John Podesta's. And I think it's a pretty safe bet that you're going to see many more emails in the next 2.5 weeks going into the election. WikiLeaks has said that they've got a surprise for Tim Kaine, they've got a surprise for Donna Brazile. It would not surprise me if they even came out with the dumped or deleted 33,000 emails from Hillary. But the problem here is, and this is completely supported by the press, and of course supported by the liberals, because they don't have an answer for it. They don't deny that the emails are fake. They don't even claim the emails are fake. What they're saying is, first off, they're saying that Russia did the hacking. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. It doesn't really matter.
And no evidence has been supplied to prove that as being so. They're just saying it. They're just conflating it in the minds of the American people so that the American people will say, oh, Putin bad. These emails shouldn't be read.
Right, but it doesn't matter who hacked the emails. What matters is what's in the emails. Nobody's saying that the emails are fake. Nobody's addressing what's in the emails and the dirt, the fraud, the filth that's been uncovered. In fact, CNN is trying to tell people that it's actually illegal to read the WikiLeaks emails. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Well, not only is it ridiculous, it's absolutely insulting to the minds of any thinking people that are left in this country, because as you and I have well documented, the oligarchy is running the show, and Hillary Clinton is quite obviously now, she's a made woman of the mafia, and she is a puppet controlled by the puppet masters. One example of that is her relationship with George Soros, which has been exposed by WikiLeaks. It's also been exposed by James O'Keefe and Project Veritas. James O'Keefe's undercover video has exposed hardcore Democratic Soros-related corruption by exposing Scott Foval and what was the other guy's name? Robert Creamer.
It doesn't matter what the frickin' legal and ethics people say. We need to win this motherfucker.
Hillary is aware of all the work that you guys do, I hope.
The campaign is fully in.
And then they tell Hillary what's going on.
Well, I mean, Hillary knows through the chain of command.
Yeah.
Two little-known but very influential Democratic political operatives, one of whom at least worked for a company that benefited from Soros donations.
The first video was about the conspiracy, the dark money conspiracy to induce violence at Trump rallies, where they were on tape describing how they took credit for all the violence and how that came through the chain of command from the White House. This is all on video. And nobody wanted to cover it. Alex has got 6 million views on YouTube, that video. And the second video was about how they were busting up people across state lines, how they wanted to commit illegal voter fraud with non-citizens. A guy named Cesar Vargas caught on videotape describing how they bust people. The quotes, you can't write them. They look like they're from The Usual Suspects. The guy in the video says, we don't care about the law. We want to win this mother effer. Quote, we've been busting people across state lines for 50 years. You can't make this stuff up.
Now, Clinton was asked about this video on the plane after the third debate. I don't know if you've heard this audio yet, Bill, but I want to play it for you. Because, again, it's an example of her being able to get away with anything she wants to get away with because the press isn't even allowed to ask her real questions. Listen to this.
Are you worried about violence are supposed to, if they are found to have,
I know nothing about this. I'm not, I can't deal with every one of his conspiracy theories, but I hope you all have something to eat and something to drink on the way back to New York.
And then she walks away. She walks away, and she gets away with it because she's the queen of the New World Order, and she gets to walk away. So we have a reporter saying, are you concerned about this video that Trump brought up that exposes corruption, deep-seated corruption in the Democratic Party? And she says, I can't deal with these conspiracy theories. I mean, are you kidding me?
And the result was probably that reporter got thrown off the plane and will never be allowed to be around her. Probably fired. Who knows?
Yeah, I wonder if the plane was in the air when the reporter got thrown off it. See, now, and that's tongue-in-cheek, but as it relates to Hillary Clinton and the Clintons, it's only half tongue-in-cheek. I mean, these people are not above political assassination to get what they want. Anybody who's been following them for any period of time, going back to Mena, Arkansas, can just take a look at the Clinton body count, Bill. These are very, very, very dangerous people, and my position has been that Trump has demonstrated great courage by getting up and speaking hardcore truth about her criminality on the global stage.
The Clinton machine is at the center of this power structure. We've seen this firsthand in the Wikileaks documents, in which Hillary Clinton meets in secret with international banks to plot the destruction of U.S. sovereignty in order to enrich these global financial powers, her special interest friends, and her donors. The Clintons are criminals. Remember that. They're criminals.
Well, Sean, what really struck me, where's the FBI? I mean, we're talking about on video. This is not he said, she said. There can't be a misquote or misprint or anything. We're talking about election fraud. And in case this hasn't crossed the listeners' minds, election fraud is the flag that waves over banana republics.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we're turning into as a banana republic. It's blatant, out in the open election fraud, and nothing. The FBI's done nothing. Department of Justice has done nothing, and it just goes on. And part of the one of the replies I heard was that James O'Keefe is a convicted criminal, and I think what he was convicted of was trespassing.
Yeah, for trying to do undercover reporting, real investigative journalism.
Right. Again, just like the WikiLeaks things, it's Russia. These are stolen. How terrible is that? It's the same thing. You know, this guy's a criminal. Don't listen to it. But who are you going to believe? You're going to believe your own eyes and your own ears? You heard what was said. They have performed election fraud, like you said, for the last 50 years. And then the other Project Veritas video was about the agitators or the aggressors at Trump rallies.
I'm not suggesting we wait around. We need to start this shit right away.
Okay.
On every one of these fronts.
Okay.
What I call it is conflict engagement.
Mm-hmm. That's your version of reenfranchisement.
Conflict engagement in the lines at Trump rallies. We're starting anarchy here.
And it turns out, if you follow the money, it goes all the way back to the Clinton Foundation.
Yep. Scott?
The Clinton Foundation to the DNC, and right on down the line to the people who were, I think they were getting $1,500 a piece to go and start trouble.
Yeah, Scott Faval in these undercover videos actually brags about it, saying those were our people. Those were our people. Make no mistake about it. Okay? These are actors. We hire these people. We train them for 2 weeks prior to get them into position. We get them there very early in the morning so they can be at the front of the line. This is all criminal, and it's all on tape. And the American news media, I'm going to give you an example of how crooked the media is. Are you ready for this? If you Google it, if you just type in James O'Keefe, you know the first article that comes up? Here's the headline. Trump used his foundation to fund guerrilla filmmaker James O'Keefe. That's from Think Progress. You've got NBC News saying Trump Foundation paid activist filmmaker James O'Keefe. Salon, Donald Trump Foundation paid James O'Keefe $10,000 in 2015. They don't want anybody to watch the video, and they're not going to report on the video. And that's the bottom line. We live in a banana republic because the fourth estate journalism is dead.
Well, Sean, if you go back to, I guess it was, Tuesday afternoon just before the debate, the spin from the Democrats regarding Creamer was that he was just this low-level worker. Well, this low-level worker was in the White House, the people's house, our house. He was in there 342 times and was in the same room or had private meetings with Obama more than 40 times.
Mm-hmm.
So this election fraud goes all the way to the top. It goes to the President of the United States. We are a banana republic.
Yeah, and I just want to make the point that as it relates to Clinton's testimony in front of Congress in which she committed perjury about the classified emails, Obama was asked if he knew about her private server. He said no, and WikiLeaks has since revealed his own private email, which now proves that he did know and he did communicate with her via her private email, so he knew about her server. This is absolutely a banana republic, and I got to say one more thing, and I'll turn it back to you, Bill. Any of the people on the left that cannot wake up to this corruption and cannot be intellectually honest about how captured and how evil Hillary Clinton is, how criminally corrupt to the core she is, if they vote for her anyway, then they deserve what they get.
Well, and it will affect everyone. They're not going to be able to say, well, I voted for Hillary, so leave me alone. That's not going to happen. What this really boils down to is that there's been so much corruption, so much fraud, so much theft in the trillions and trillions over the years that Hillary absolutely must be elected in order to prevent the rule of law, in order to prevent anyone from going to jail, in order to prevent any true digging into what happened. And that's why the elites are so petrified that Trump will get in.
Mm-hmm.
Because if Trump gets in, I believe that he will instruct an attorney general to just start digging.
Mm-hmm. He said he would, and again, as it relates to Trump, I've only judged the man by the things he's said, and what he's saying is he wants a return to the rule of law. And if we want to save this nation, that's our only chance. We know, as I've documented time and time again, Hillary Clinton is Rothschild's choice for president. Okay, she's friends with Lynn Forrester de Rothschild. Many a fundraiser, $100,000 per head fundraiser, have been held for Hillary Clinton by the Rothschilds. She literally is the central banker's choice for president.
Well, Sean, I titled my article yesterday, Our Last Chance. And basically, this is our last chance. Either the rule of law returns, or the rule of law is going to be gone. And in order to get it back, there's going to be massive, massive bloodshed, i.e. civil war, to get it back.
Well, Bill, let's do this here before we lose you. Let's document the collapse, because I don't think what's coming can be stopped regardless of who gets in the Oval Office. Many a naysayer out there in YouTube land has made the same point. Some have argued that Trump is just a puppet like Hillary. Again, I judge him by the words he said. I would love to see the country return to a rule of law. I would love to see Trump engage Putin in a conversation as opposed to Hillary's approach, which is apparently to let the nukes fly. But again, as it relates to the U.S. dollar and our crushing $20 trillion in publicly stated debt, here's an article that ought to wake people up and chill them to the bone. Saudis and China dump treasuries. Foreign central banks liquidate a record $346 billion in U.S. paper. Bill, behind the scenes, we've got nation states getting away from the dollar and U.S. treasuries as fast as they can.
Well, then your next question is, who was the buyer? And we know the answer to that. The only buyer is the Federal Reserve. Mm-hmm. I mean, $346 billion, that's basically a quarter, little more than a quarter of the amount of increase of debt. I mean, they lie about the deficit. The true deficit is the amount of increase in debt from year over year, and it was $1.2 trillion. So you got an increase of debt of $1.2 trillion plus, just from two countries, another $346 billion that was dumped onto the market. Who's buying this? And the answer, again, the answer is the Federal Reserve. They are the buyer of last resort. They're the buyer of only resort.
Yeah, and you know what I think people should consider, Bill, as it relates to Hillary Clinton and as it relates to this overt, blatant criminality that we see on the global stage. If you're offshore and you are the head of one of these nations, maybe a nation that used to be or still is an ally with the United States, and you see this blatant criminality and this endless bloodlust for war, Bill, should it not be expected that as countries get fed up with the geopolitical behavior of the State Department and the Pentagon, that they also begin to dump treasuries in earnest? Because it would be the one way to kill the beast. If they can dump treasuries and destroy the dollar, they will eventually take this country down. And I think that is the ultimate danger to a Hillary Clinton presidency, because what we get with her is more of the same. More war, more criminality, and more nation states turning their back on the United States. And that's when we hit hyperinflation.
Sean, it goes one or maybe even two steps further than that. Financially, for all intents and purposes, we have already fallen. In other words, the only thing holding up the Treasury market is the Federal Reserve buying. So in a real world, in a real market, interest rates, you would have seen a big spike in interest rates based on the increased debt and based on the debt that's being sold. You're suggesting that other countries could sell treasuries and that will kill the beast. I don't really agree with that, simply because the Federal Reserve will just step up and buy anything and everything that anyone sells. They will monetize it. Now, going the one step further, and perfect example is the Philippines. They just told the U.S. to get out. And Duterte was in China yesterday, and basically they are now a if you want to call it, they're going to become a protectorate of China. And that's the way, that's one way that the game is going to be called, when our allies break ties with us and switch sides.
Right.
And then going one step further, you have to look at trade. And once you get enough allies that have said, that's it, we're done, we're going to do our business down the Silk Road or whatever. At that point, then we get to what you're talking about, the hyperinflation, when the dollar is not accepted for trade. Jim Willey has been saying that he's heard reports that dollars are not being accepted in ports. I haven't seen any evidence of that. In my opinion, once we do see evidence of that, if it's true right now, I've said this all along, you got about a 48-hour window and all hell will break loose. Because that would be the shunning of the dollar, and then how do we conduct trade? We talked about this, 6 months ago in an interview. How is the U.S. going to conduct trade with the only thing that they can pay for the trade is dollars if we don't have any gold?
Right.
We don't have foreign currency, and we don't have foreign currency because we didn't need it. We were the world's reserve currency, so we didn't need euros, we didn't need pounds or yen or whatever. We could conduct our business in dollars. So we don't have big balances of other currencies. If we don't have gold, the trades aren't going to get done. And that's when you're going to see de facto hyperinflation, when goods become scarce, and goods will become scarce when trade breaks down.
Yeah. All right. Well, you know what, guys? $346 billion, a record amount of U.S. Treasuries dumped very recently and quietly.
And shoveled under the rug.
Yeah, and people just need to understand, when we say we're documenting the collapse, we're not just using hyperbole. We are documenting the collapse. And most of your friends, neighbors, and colleagues have no idea this is going on. Now, I want to say one thing before I let you go. Earlier in the interview, I mentioned political assassination and my belief that the Clintons are not above using it as a means to their own ends. Now, why would I say that? Let's just recap the last year. DNC staffer Seth Rich was the operations director for voter expansion at the DNC. Rich had all the top secret information about the DNC's inner workings, and when he shockingly turned up murdered, it had Washington insiders talking cover-up. Here's another. Joe Montano. Joe Montano was a former DNC chairman, would have knowledge of the criminal activities used to get Hillary elected. Montano died from what was said to be a heart attack on July 25th, the day the DNC started. That's the way it was written. I don't think that's right. I'm bringing this to you from Anonymous. And here's another one. As previously reported, Sean Lucas, the lead attorney who was working to expose the DNC fraud case in Florida, was unexpectedly found dead in his home after delivering the DNC court papers. And another strange death is that of Victor Thorne, a prolific author an investigator of the Clintons, author of many books, including a new Hillary scandal book. And Bill, I know there's others. So when we talk about political assassinations, I think we also need to mention the banking assassinations. Have you been following this latest news about, what is his name? About David Rossi, the banker at Monte Paschi?
Right. Yeah. He supposedly jumped to a suicide, and then there's a tape of two people walking up afterwards, about a minute or 2 minutes later, and just took a look at him and turned around and walked away. I mean, the bottom line is, if you know too much, or if you know something that's vital as proof to uncovering what, the various different frauds, you're dead. You're a dead man. And the thing is, you're a dead man and nobody's going to investigate your death. And I think the ultimate of that, and one you forgot, is Justice Scalia.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't tell me that in a real world, a Supreme Court justice dies and they don't do an autopsy. I mean, absolute banana republic. That's what you should title this, Banana Republic, because that's what all of this is all about.
Yeah, guys, and just to back up what Bill's saying, if you look at the extremely disturbing CCTV footage of the death of David Rossi, you will discover exactly what the New York Post has been saying and his wife has been saying. He was murdered. Nobody jumps out a third-floor window to kill themselves backwards. It appears he was thrown out, and then, as Bill recounts, two men just a minute or two later walked downstairs to make sure that he's not going to survive, and he died some 20 minutes later. Yeah, Bill, that is the saddest part about the world in which we live. If any one of us turn up dead, there will be no investigation. There will be no truth discovered. And I don't think we have a chance for that until we return to rule of law. And the only way we return to rule of law is to put these oligarchs in prison.
You're absolutely correct. Somebody's got to go to jail, and it's going to be a long line. That's the only chance to turn this thing around. Financially, it cannot be turned around. Financially, no matter who's elected, no matter what happens policy-wise going forward, the financial system will collapse. That's mathematical.
Yep.
The question is, are we going to dig our way out from that collapse using and under a rule of law? Or do we do it basically under a dictatorship? That's the only question in my mind.
Well, guys, if you appreciated this conversation, I would appreciate it if you give it a like and share it with others. Leave us a comment below. And if you like this information and want more of it, you can get these one-on-ones with Jim Sinclair and Bill Holter over at Bill's website. Give them the information on how to do that, will you?
You can see our work at www.jsmineset, Mineset. And I would urge anyone who's listening to this, give this to your mother, father, brother, sister, friend, whatever. If they're left-leaning, if they're basically oblivious, we're not making this stuff up. All of this is factual. And I guess what is made up are the responses from the left to all the corruption. I mean, the response is, I don't have time to deal with every conspiracy theory. It's not conspiracy theory, it's conspiracy fact. And like I said, this is the last chance for our country. And who knows, maybe it could be 100% for Trump and they still steal the election. I don't know how good the technology is. But if you just look at what's out there as far as rallies, you look at Twitter, you look at Facebook, you look at the social media, and Trump has 10 times the amount of followers that Hillary has. So this is an election that there's no doubt there will be fraud involved. The question is, will there be enough fraud to steal the election?
Yeah, and I would just say one final thing as a plea to anyone listening. who thinks they might vote for Hillary Clinton. If you're on the left, if you identify with the Democrats, please just do some soul searching and have this be a vote for humanity to the degree that you have to be intellectually honest. Do you want to be ruled by an oligarch who is ultimately ruled by some of the wealthiest people on the planet? Is that the person you want in the White House? I used to support George Bush and identify myself as a conservative Republican, and then I woke up. I woke up to the Cheney-Bush lies and going into Iraq under false pretenses after 9/11. That was a painful awakening, but it had to be done. And the only way to do that is to be intellectually honest about the facts. And the facts you've just heard in this interview present the very real picture that Hillary Clinton is a hardcore New World Order criminal willing to lie, cheat, and potentially kill to get into the White House. Final word, Bill.
You mentioned 9/11. There was a report out this past week, the Millennium Report, titled Treason. It's about 50 pages long. It'll take you more than an hour, maybe 2 hours to read. I would highly advise that you read it. It's all about 9/11. It's not about what so much. It's not about how so much. It's about why. And 9/11, when you're done reading this, 9/11 was entirely about covering up financial crimes.
Yeah, I know. And the rabbit hole goes very deep. Max Kaiser has talked about that, the bonds, the issues on 9/11, the stolen gold. Guys, the rabbit hole goes very, very deep, and unfortunately it gets very, very dark. But Bill, you know how much we appreciate your straight shooting nature. Thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure, Sean.
All right, and guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We very much appreciate it. Check out Bill's website, jsmineset.com. And for real news 24/7, 365, visit us at sgtreport.com. The corporate propaganda antidote. Have a great week.
We will no longer surrender this country or its people to the false song of globalism. And under my administration, we will never enter America into any agreement that reduces our ability to control our own affairs.